Picture this. It's the middle of the night, April 18th, 1775. A lone rider is tearing through the countryside, his horse's hooves thundering in the dark. He carries a warning that's about to set a revolution in motion. You know the name, right? Paul Revere? But what if I told you the story we all learned in school is more of a legend than the real deal? Let's dig in and find out.
Yeah, for pretty much all of us, this is where the story comes from. Henry Wadsworth Longfellow's famous poem written way back in 1861. It's an incredible piece of work, for sure, and it single-handedly turned a real historical event into a national myth, making Paul Revere the one and only hero of that night.
And that's really the big question here, isn't it? The poem is amazing, but it's not exactly a history lesson. So in this explainer, we're going to peel back all those layers of myth and legend to get to the true story of the man, the mission, and the night that literally changed the world.
All right, so before we can even talk about the ride, we have to understand the writer. Just who was Paul Revere? Well, he was a whole lot more than just a messenger. Turns out he was a major player in the patriot cause long before he ever saddled up that night. So he was born right here in Boston. His dad was a French Protestant, a Huguenot immigrant, and Revere grew up to be a master craftsman. We're talking one of the best silversmiths in all of the colonies. But his skills weren't just for making fancy teapots. He was also using them to help stir up a revolution.
Look, Revere wasn't just some guy who agreed with the cause. No way. He was an operator. He made these incredibly influential anti-British political engravings. He was a key member of the secret society, the Sons of Liberty. And, this is important, he was already one of their most trusted intelligence couriers. That famous ride? It was definitely not his first rodeo.
Okay, let's set the scene. It's April 1775, and tensions in Boston are at a boiling point. The British command has a secret plan. They're going to march out to the town of Concord, grab a whole cache of colonial weapons, and maybe, just maybe, arrest Patriot leaders like John Hancock and Samuel Adams. But the Patriots had spies everywhere, and they knew something was up. So they put their own plan into action. And this is so important to get. This was not some last-minute panic to gallop into the darkness. It was a pre-planned, highly coordinated intelligence operation, an operation that Revere himself helped create. The plan was brilliant in its simplicity. Watch what the British do, use a signal to alert the team across the river, and then ride like mad to spread the word.
And this is probably the most famous part of the whole operation, the lantern signal from the Old North Church. You know it, 1 if by land and 2 if by sea. Well, on that particular night, the Patriot lookouts saw British soldiers loading into boats to cross the Charles River. So up went 2 lanterns. The signal was sent, and the mission was a go.
Okay, let's just bust one of the biggest myths right now. Revere absolutely did not gallop through town yelling, "The British are coming!" Think about it. Why not? Because at that time, the colonists were British. That would have made no sense. His warning was much more precise. He was telling people, the regulars are out. They were being warned about the king's professional soldiers, the regulars.
And that brings us to maybe the biggest myth of them all, the idea that Revere was some lone rider. Not even close. Another man, William Dawes, was sent out on a different route. They met up later with a third rider, Dr. Samuel Prescott. And as they rode, they woke up local Patriot leaders, who then sent out their own riders. We're talking dozens of them. It was a cascade of information, basically a Revolutionary-era social network.
And here's a twist that the poem conveniently leaves out. Paul Revere never actually made it to Concord. He got stopped and captured by a British patrol. But you know what? It didn't even matter. By the time they caught him, the alarm was already spreading like wildfire. Dawes and Prescott got away, and that whole network Revere helped activate did its job. The mission succeeded, even though Revere's personal ride was cut short.
So the warning is out. The countryside is buzzing. What happens now? Well, this is how one chaotic night turned into a full-blown war, and how, decades later, the story got a major rewrite.
The very next morning, at the crack of dawn actually. Because of that network of riders, when the British regulars marched into the town of Lexington, they didn't find a sleeping village. They found a colonial militia, armed and waiting for them. There was a standoff, someone fired a shot, and just like that, the American Revolutionary War had begun.
And you've all heard the phrase, right? The shot heard round the world. It perfectly captures what happened that day. The fighting that started in Lexington and continued in Concord, where the militia actually pushed the British back, was the spark that lit the fuse on a global conflict. And it all started with that midnight alarm. So if this ride was so critical, you have to wonder, why did it take so long for Revere to become this huge national hero? Look at that gap. Revere passed away in 1818 as a well-respected citizen and businessman, but not as a legendary icon. The answer is Longfellow's poem. He published it in 1861, right on the brink of the Civil War. It took a complex story, simplified it, and created a powerful symbol of American patriotism right when the country needed one most.
To really get a sense of Paul Revere's impact, we have to look past that one single night and that one very famous poem. His contributions to America, both during the war and after, were just massive.
You see, Revere didn't just hang up his spurs after the ride. Not even close. He went on to become a major industrialist. He made cannons for the war. And after the Revolution, he figured out new ways to make copper plating, which was crucial for protecting the hulls of the young U.S. Navy's ships, including the famous USS Constitution. He was a true innovator, helping to build the very country he'd fought for.
So in the end, while the poem gets a lot of the details wrong, it kind of gets the spirit right. Revere's real legacy isn't about one guy on a horse. It's about a dedicated, organized citizen who stepped up and did what needed to be done at a crucial moment. He's a symbol of how one person, working as part of a team, can truly make a difference in history.
And that really leaves us with a pretty deep question to chew on. Longfellow's mythic version of the story reached way more people than the complicated truth ever would have. It inspired generations. So what's more important in the end? The nitty-gritty historical facts or the powerful legend that helps shape a nation's idea of itself? It's definitely something worth thinking about.
Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. It really helps us.